Shabbat Shalom, everyone. In honor of Volunteer Recognition Shabbat, we begin with the words of Ani Ve'ata. Ani Ve'ata nishanet ha'olam. Ani Ve'ata az yavo kvar kulam. Amru et ze kodem lefanai, ze lo mishane. Ani Ve'ata nishanet ha'olam. Ani Ve'ata ninase mechatchana. Yeh lanu ra, ein davar ze lo nora. Amru et ze kodem lefanai, ze lo mishane. Ani Ve'ata nishanet ha'olam. Hine ma tov u'manayim. How good it is we are here together this evening. Let's join together. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is,
How good it is,
how sweet it is,
how sweet it is
to be together on this day. How good it is,
how good it is,
how sweet it is,
how sweet it is
to be together on this day. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum, Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum, Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum, Shalom Aleichem, Salam Aleikum. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Shabbat Shalom. How good it is to be together on this day. Those of us who are here in person and feeling the spiritual energy that this space has not felt in many, many months, and the spiritual energy of everyone who is joining us virtually as we are now in this new world. We were gathering in all kinds of different good and spiritual ways and modalities. And it's a special evening tonight as we are recognizing all of the volunteers of our community. And I can't even wrap my mind around the contribution that the members of our community have made to this synagogue during these past 15 months or so. To try to recognize what people have done, not only to keep this institution sustained throughout the pandemic, but to make sure that the members of our community, whether they live in a home of a dozen or we're living the solitary life of one, to do whatever we could do to stay connected, to stay engaged, to bring the goodness of food if we needed a food delivery, great conversation, learning, and the ability to do things on Zoom that we never imagined we would be able to do. It has been so inspiring, and I think I speak on behalf of my colleagues and the rest of the team here. It has been so inspiring during this past year to see how the members of our community have rallied not for us, but for yourselves, for ourselves, to do whatever could be done whenever someone needed to get through the day, to get through the week, to get through the month, to get through what this year has been. I was reading earlier today an interesting passage from the Talmud that asks a question that everyone should be privileged to have to wonder. And the question is it better to give charity or to do acts of gemilut chasadim, to do acts of loving kindness, acts of goodness for someone else? Now, as a person who works for a nonprofit, It's good to know and good to wonder, man, which one would I rather have? Another donation or another volunteer? The answer, of course, is both. And thank you to everyone who has helped both financially and with your wisdom and your resource to get through this time. But it's an interesting thing to think about, especially in the way that the rabbis answer. Because the rabbis answered that always tzedakah is incredibly important. As they say in other places, ein kamach, ein Torah. Without the dough, right, money, there's no Torah. But they say, charity has its limits. Charity only can come from the bank account and only go to the bank account. But acts of gimilut chasadim, acts of loving kindness, things that we can do with our body, can do so much more in so many different ways. Not everyone is in need of another shekel or a warm meal that they didn't have. What you can do with an act of gimilut chasadim is you can bring comfort to someone in a moment of sadness. You can console them in a moment of grief. It's been amazing in the last couple of weeks as we've returned to having in-person Shiva Minyanim, to be able to sit with the family and mourn with them when they are in pain. To bring joy, to celebrate a wedding or a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah or a bris or a baby naming. To be able to just spend time with, as I'm looking out and talking with some of you as you came in this evening, to see that we're going to be here with our chavara. We got our seats all planned. It's going to be the joy that we offer to each other by our physical presence. The joy that we offer to each other by acts of reaching out to someone and trying to make their life better because of what we can do for them goes way beyond the dollars and the cents that might fill a bank account. And so as I reflect on the fact that here we are on this night, Volunteer Recognition Shabbat, having come almost all the way through, God willing, this pandemic, I'm in awe. I'm in awe of our congregation. I'm in awe of the leadership. I'm in awe of all of you. We are here tonight because of all of you. We are here tonight for all of you. And we will go forward from tonight because of all of us together. May we go from strength to strength. Shabbat Shalom. And speaking of going forward, we are privileged to invite up our bat mitzvah, Emma Johnson, and her parents, Lauren and Bradley, who will lead us in the Shabbat candles. We continue with our other bat mitzvah family. We invite up our bat mitzvah Cynthia Jacobs with her parents Mike and Alyssa. We turn to pages 4 and 5 for the Kiddush.
The heaven and the earth were finished in all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing. And God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done.
And God blessed on the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all work of creation that God had done.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava ufratzon hinhilanu zikapron lemasei v'reishit ki hu yom Tehillah, Lemikra Kodesh, Zeher L'Tzia, Mitzrayim, Kivanu V'harta, Yatanu Kidashta, Mikol Amim, V'Shabbat Kodshecha, Ve'ahalam V'uvratzon, Hin Haltanu, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat.
Not surprisingly, I look forward to Shabbat every week. But I haven't looked forward to Shabbat as much as I have this week in quite some time. Knowing that we will be gathering as a community in person for the first time in all of these months has filled me with a sense of joy and expectation, not unlike a bride and a groom as they approach their wedding day. And that's exactly what God had intended for us when he inspired the mind of Shlomo Alkabetz to write the words of Lecha Dodi, to inspire us to reach out every Friday evening to welcome the Sabbath bride with that sense of joy and expectation. So as we turn now to page 20, we rise to sing the words of Lecha Dodi to welcome the Sabbath bride.
Lecha Dodi, Lekrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Lekrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'nei echad, Hishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'shemo tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. Likrat Shabbat, Lechu v'necha, Ki hi mekor habracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof maaseh b'machshavat tchila. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. Hitoriri, Ki va'orech umi ori, Uri, Shir da'beri, Kavod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela.
We turn to face and greet the Sabbath bride.
Boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala, Gam b'simcha u'b'tzola, Toch emonei ha'usegula, Boi chala, Boi chala. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Mikabela. 28. Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Yeah, lie. Yeah, lie, lie, lie. Yeah, lie, lie, lie. Yeah, lie, 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 lie. Baruch hu et Adonai, Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai, Hamevorach, Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Yalai.
Please be seated as we continue together on page 30. Together, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, v'chochma potech she'arim, u'vitfuna mishane itim, u'machalif et hazamanim, u'misader et hakochavim, v'mishmeroteim barakia kirtzono, orei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or.
Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, el chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Hamari v'arachim. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadta, otanu limadta, al ken Adonai Eloheinu, b'shochmenu ufkumenu, nasiach b'chukecha, nasiach b'chukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם ולילה, ואהבתך תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני.
Please rise.
אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע
Please be seated as we continue with the V'ahavta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בהם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
The first time I ever met a kid in Israel named Nadav, I felt sorry for him. Here's why. The Hebrew word lahit nadev means to volunteer. And this kid was named Nadav, which means volunteer. And if you've ever visited Kibbutz Yahel, which is where this kid lived, he was the son of Lori and Drew, who were an American couple who had made Aliyah to Yahel. If you've ever been to Yahel, this forced reform kibbutz, you're already dealing with the reform kibbutz in Israel. You can imagine how much trouble they get from the government. And you're in the desert. You're right near Eilat. And I'm like, Nadav, whose name is volunteer, did not volunteer to be born on this kibbutz, to be born in this arid place, to be born into this reform movement kibbutz. And I always think about that. I thought of it the first moment I met him till this day. And here's why. All the volunteers I know, those who sit on this bima, those who are here in this congregation, those who are watching online, those who have paved the path of volunteerism in this synagogue have a fire inside of them, a burning fire, that they want to make the world a better place. They use this pulpit and this bima as a place to begin, but they don't stay in the walls of this sanctuary. Instead, they go forth to the world at large. And that is the power and majesty of being a volunteer. And so with the words of Mi Chamocha, the words we're about to sing, those children of Israel were also volunteers in a certain way. They didn't have to cross the Red Sea. They could have given up to Pharaoh's army. They could have drowned. They could have done a million different things. But they volunteered to make that choice to cross from slavery to freedom because, God willing, they had the same fire inside of them. We continue with the words of Mi Chamocha on page 40.
תפארת אדוני יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום, העולנו והכל עמו ישראל, והוא ירושלים.
It is a marvel that even after a year plus not together in the sanctuary, we still remember the words and the tunes, and we remember what Shabbat feels like. That's because it's not something that we do every once in a while. It's something that the Jewish people don't just have a choice about, they are obligated. And with that obligation comes repetition, and with that repetition comes familiarity, and with familiarity comes love. It is that love of Shabbat that is expressed in the Vishamru. We continue on page 44.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לתורתם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי
vayom hashvi.
Shabbat vayinafash.
Shabbat vayinafash.
Shabbat vayinafash.
It's getting worse, isn't it?
Worse.
Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת
Torah berit olam.
You've created a monster. So let me just get a good look at you. And to you. Take a moment for just a second and look around at each other. We see all kinds of different people, and we see them in all kinds of different forms. But I want you to imagine now that you can just close your eyes and see yourself not as everybody else sees you in your physical reality, but how the Holy One sees you when you stand in the presence of the Creator of the universe, the teacher of Torah, our partner in the completion of the work of creation. And when you feel that you are in touch with that sense of yourself, then we are ready to pray. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibur v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei HaKol V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot U'mevii Gula Livnei V'nehem Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Moshia U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Ushia Morid Hatal Mechakel Hayim Bechesed Mechayeh HaKol berachamim rabim Somech noflim verofeh cholim Umatir asurim Umekayem emunato Lishenei afar Michamocha ba'al gevurot Umido melach Melech memit umechayem Umatzmiach ישועה, ולמען אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. The last 2 weeks have been harrowing. With more than 4,000 rockets and projectiles launched from the Gaza Strip towards civilian cities and towns and villages in the state of Israel, as far away as Jerusalem and Cholon and Tel Aviv, or as near to Gaza as Sderot and the other communities in the Eshkol. Think about what it must be like to be an Israeli commander selecting targets. You know that there is what the IDF calls the Metro, this incredible network of underground tunnels that Hamas uses to build and transport these crude weapons of terror. And so you say, okay, maybe we should attack that tunnel and destroy it. However, there's a house on top of that tunnel. And if we destroy that tunnel, we might destroy the house along with it, because it might collapse with the foundation being shaken. On the other hand, if we don't destroy that tunnel, whose house is going to be destroyed in Ashkelon, or in Ashdod, or in Rehovot, or Modi'in? How do you make choices like that? How do you live with those choices after you make them? And that's just the experience of one Israeli. And millions of Israelis can tell you their own stories of what it's like to serve in a forward unit, what it's like to be the parent of a child serving in a forward unit. The anguish of what the last 2 weeks have brought to our friends, our relatives, our brothers and sisters in the state of Israel is gargantuan and complex. Just think for a moment about Sheikh Jarrah, this neighborhood a mile and a half from the old city. It was founded by Jews and Arabs in the middle of the 19th century as a new neighborhood. It was called Sheikh Jarrah as a way of remembering the physician to Saladin, and also to remember the piousness of Simon the Just. And then in 1948, the Jews were expelled from Sheikh Jarrah when the Jordanians took East Jerusalem and allowed refugees from that conflict to move into the houses that used to be occupied by Jews. And then in 1967, 19 years later, those lands were taken back by Israel. And if you could prove that you had good title to your land, then you were entitled to get it back. Whose house is it now? Whose land is it? The complexity of the anguish, of the holdings, of the ownership of that sacred space can't be described in a 2-minute package on evening television or a small blurb in your favorite newspaper. Which is why we need to hold that conflict with tender care and without judgment. but simply to hold the sadness and the prayer for wisdom and for understanding and, God willing, for peace. And so I invite you to please join with me in our prayers for the state of Israel, which you see on your screen before you. Avinu shebashamayim, tzur Yisrael v'goalo, barech et medinat Yisrael reshit tzmichat geulatenu. O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, the first flowering of our redemption. Shield it with your love. Spread over it the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Deliver them, crown their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace and its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say, Amen. Continue in moments of silent prayer and meditation.
Al bitenu hatinokesh moreli hatov Al ha'esh hamevo eret Al ha'mayim chazakim Al ha'ish hashav habayit amim Hamerchakim Al kol Like the bee that brings the honey needs a stinger to compete, so our children learn to use the bitter with the sweet, and to keep the fires burning in the night and in the day for those who are returning from so far. Al
now with the celebration of the reading of Torah. We ask everyone to please rise.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah udvar Adonai Yerushalayim. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah udvar Adonai Yerushalayim. Baruch shenaton Torah le'amo, Torah le'amo Yisrael. Baruch shenaton Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shema. Lecha Adonai HaGedola HaGevura HaTiferet Levanetzach v'ha'od. Ki ho b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Ki ho b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Lecha Adonai
Be seated.
ve'amit na'aseh lechol erosh.
Torah portion for this Shabbat is Parshat Naso, which comes from the beginning part of the book of Numbers. It is among my favorite of the 54 Torah portions because, like you, where'd you go? It's my bar mitzvah Torah portion. I can still chant it in my head, but she can chant it better. There are lots of things that Parshat Naso talks about, but one of the things Parshat Naso speaks about is this thing or this vow that you can take to become what is called a Nazir or a Nazirite. Does anybody know what a Nazirite is? Well, aren't you glad you came tonight so that I could tell you? So a Nazirite was a man or a woman who offered a vow to serve the temple or the priesthood or the community for a period of time. It could be a month, it could be longer, it could be a lifetime. And if you agreed to be a Nazir, a Nazirite, you had to observe 3 rules. The first rule was that you could not have any wine or any alcohol. You couldn't even have a grape or a raisin. The second thing was you had to let your hair grow untrimmed. And the third was that you could not go in where there was a dead body, even if it was for a family member. And if it turned out that you did somehow accidentally be near a dead body, you were out to eat and somebody dropped dead next to you, as happens from time to time, you had to start your period of service all over again. So why would someone choose to be a Nazir? Why would somebody choose to donate a period of their life in service to their people, to their community, to the Holy One? Well, maybe it was because you were thankful for something good that had happened, and so you wanted to show your appreciation by serving God in this way. Or maybe you needed a particular favor from the Holy One, and so you might do this as a way of entreating God for good favor. Maybe you just wanted to be in the room where it happens. They're opening September 14th on Broadway, by the way. and you just wanted to be around all that good, holy stuff. Maybe it was because you weren't yourself offering thanks, but you were so grateful for perhaps the birth of a child that you were willing to offer that child's life as service. Can anyone name a famous Nazarite in the Tanakh? Yes, Barbara? Samson, right? Because he derived his strength from that long, long hair. But I think about how appropriate it is that we are celebrating Volunteer Shabbat on the week that we learn about Nazarites. Because, thank goodness, Judaism teaches that an ascetic lifestyle is not to be emulated, so you can volunteer to serve the temple and still drink good wine. You can volunteer to serve the temple and get your hair cut if you have any left to cut. And God forbid you should have a loss. You can still serve your synagogue and attend to your mourning. But what the Tanakh and the Torah are teaching us is that in order for one to be a good servant to one's people or the Holy One, they need to be good vessels. The Torah teaches us how to purify that vessel through our physical form and through ritual purity. But as I look out at all of you, our wonderful volunteers who have given so much to our congregation and community, not this year, but in years past, and I know in years to come. And for those of you who are joining us online, I know that there are so many more volunteers who are celebrating Shabbat with us from the safety and the comfort of your own home. Tonight we thank you all for your gifts of yourselves, the gifts of your life, the gifts of your spirit, of your time and your talent, in so many myriad ways have enriched the life and made more holy the life of our sacred holy congregation and community. Shabbat Shalom. It is my privilege to invite to the honor of the reading of Leah to Torah, Judy and Mike Blackman, who both know a little bit about volunteering.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'chabonu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, and God spoke to Moses, saying, Daber el Yisrael v'amarta alehem, speak of Israel, and say to them, Ish o isha, a man or a woman, ki yafli neder nazir ladonai, any man or woman who offers a vow, wine or alcohol drink, chometz yain, chometz, like the schmutz of wine, meaning like anything that would come from the grapevine, v'chometz dried, you may not. Kol yemei naziro, mikol asher ya'aseh, migefen hayayin, mechartzanim ve'ad zag lo yochel. Anything that could possibly be derived, anything that could be made from the vine, so even tomato juice is not allowed, or anything resembling anything of alcoholic drink you cannot consume. Kol yemei nazir, for God, you are holy. Gadel peras arosho, you may not allow anything to touch the hair on your head. Kol yemei haziro ladonai al nefesh meit lo yavo. For all the days that you serve as a Nazarite, you may not come anywhere near a dead body. Le'aviv ulimo le'achiv u'lachoto lo yitameh lahem b'motam. Even if it's your father on your head. Kol yemei naziro kadosh hu ladonai. All of your days, as a Nazarite, you are holy for God.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam notah b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten.
And we ask that you remain here, Judy and Mike, and we ask that Sonny Thal will come up and to join you. Sonny is meeting, given the honor of the Joseph Q. Klein Volunteer Leadership Award, which is, I think, one of the most coveted honors that we have in congregation. Care and service that you have rendered to our congregation and our community. We are so grateful for all that you have, And while we want to offer you a special blessing on this Shabbat that is dedicated to you and to people like you, you still have to come to the annual meeting. June the 3rd, it will be a virtual meeting. We hope that everyone will log in online so that we can celebrate with Sunny and with the other honorees that we will celebrate. And we now ask you to please turn to the slides that you see on this and join in a special blessing for our volunteers. Va'omar hineni shalacheni, and I said, here I am, send me. Tonight we honor those who have given the gifts of their time, their talent, their energy, and their humanity in service to our congregation and community. Join me together, please. For God's presence to reside in their community, God asked for gifts from anyone whose heart was so. It was only divine gifts of labor, of talent and ingenuity, of skill and creativity that the people could create a place for God to dwell among us. We are taught that service and sacrifice pave the pathways to a connection to God, and we give thanks for all the connections your service forged between us and the Holy One this year. For the work that was done to reach out to the lonely, to feed the hungry, to protect the vulnerable, and to the needy, we give thanks. For those who saw a need and stepped in to fill it, who selflessly gave of themselves for others, who put the needs of others before their own, who didn't wait to be asked, we offer our praise. Tonight, we, like the prophet Isaiah, say, Baruch atah hamivarech et ma'aseh yadenu. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses the work of our hands. Included in this week's Torah portion are also familiar words which I'd like to conclude. Vayedaber, speak to Aaron and where are we? Oh, sorry.
That's okay. You're
Thank you.
You're
All
good. You're good.
right,
Keep
hang
going.
on. We're up. God spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to Aaron and to his children, and I panavilecha vichunek Israel, and I will bless you." We say Mazel Tov. Will everyone please rise?
V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei
Please be seated.
Shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elav nashuva hadesh yamenu kekedem.
Temple Bethel is blessed that we have an extraordinary group of people who produce our service. And not only at me from the booth, but we have a full video to share with you about our volunteers, and we'd like for you to see that now.
See fresh fruits and vegetables throughout the year. You help make their holidays by delivering over 100 holiday meals to families who would not otherwise have had such wonderful holiday times. We stayed in touch with each other. Over 14,000 phone calls were made to each and every member of the temple in order to say, "Hi, we're here. Are you okay? Check in. Temple Bethel is here for you." You helped make people who otherwise felt isolated and alone feel connected both to the community, to you, and to the temple. You helped each other with technical support, with a helpline, so that those who needed to tune in to Virtual Bethel were able to do so because of your ability to help them. When we had our drive-by events or Israel Experience, you were here helping us, helping make those events happen. Thank you so much. Enjoy the photo montage of so many of our wonderful volunteers. Shabbat Shalom.
thank you to our volunteers who kept the Bethel love going.
Temple Bethel's volunteers are the lifeblood of our synagogue. Whether they are helping us navigate the very difficult year we have had, or helping us thrive when things are going great, Temple Bethel is the very best synagogue it can be because the time, the energy, the effort, the wisdom, and the resource that our volunteers put forward. Tonight, on this Shabbat, as we celebrate our volunteers and recognize their service to our congregation, I offer everyone who's volunteered for the synagogue the deepest of my thanks. Thank you so much, and Shabbat Shalom.
To all of our incredible volunteers who give so selflessly of their time and their energy and their spirit, thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts. We love you. Where would we be without you? Mwah.
Temple Bethel volunteers, we can't thank you enough for all you have done.
To all our volunteers, to all those who stepped up and said, Hineni, Shalachini, here I am, send me, we thank you for the gifts of your service and yourselves. Toda Rabbah. Thank you.
This really is a special place. And on behalf of our Board of Trustees, we are privileged now to welcome to the Bima our Temple's Executive Vice President, Wendy Whalen, who will offer us some greetings and announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. It is so wonderful to be back in the sanctuary with all of you. I am seeing so many friendly faces for the first time in person for so many months, and I'm just so thrilled to be here with you. We have waited a very long time for this Shabbat to come, where we could all be together again in this very sacred space. First, I'd like to say Mazel Tov to Emma and her parents, Lauren and Bradley Johnson, and to Sydney and her parents, Alyssa and Michael Jacobs. Sonny, Mazel Tov again, and we look forward to celebrating you at our annual meeting. Judy and Mike Blackman, how appropriate that you are the ones to do our Torah blessings tonight. I have shared many volunteer hours with both of you. Actually, when I first really started volunteering in social action, you were my mentors. And then, of course, tonight is also the first time that you see us allowed back on the Bima. And it is so appropriate that our trustee tonight is our Vice President of Religious Activities, Aileen Fisher. All of you who attend Shabbat services regularly are used to seeing Aileen here. But what you might not know is that for all those months that we were virtual, Aileen was still working tirelessly. She was the one who coordinated all of our congregants to do our candles and Kiddush and Torah blessings, and to do that and tell them how to do it on Zoom. Believe me, it was not an easy task. Tomorrow, I hope you tune in to Torah study at 9:30, and then this Thursday, May 27th at 7 p.m., join Project Nuremberg creator, Rabbi Jessica Speltonic-Mates, in a riveting conversation with IFA, which is the Integrity First for America Executive Director, Amy Speltonic, and attorneys Roberta Kaplan and Karen Dunn for an overview of the landmark case against white supremacy in Charlottesville and the fight against white supremacy, anti-Semitism, racism, and other forms of hate. And you can register online for that at tbeboca.org. Also, it's Pride Month coming up. June is LGBTQ plus Pride Month in commemoration of the Stonewall Uprising. And this year, Temple Bethel will celebrate Pride Month with a Lunch and Learn series where we will explore themes of LGBTQ plus inclusion in our current day and participate in community pride events. Rabbi Greg Weissman and the leaders of our LGBTQ+ task force lead this effort. And you can again visit tbeboca.org for more information. And as Rabbi Dan mentioned, we hope you'll join us on Thursday, June 3rd at 7 p.m. for our annual meeting. You can help us honor our outstanding volunteers and professionals as we celebrate this past year at Temple Bethel and recognize our incoming Board of Trustees. So check your email on Sunday for further details. And again, you can also visit tbeboca.org for more details. And just as a reminder, the annual meeting is for Temple Bethel members only. We hope you'll join us next Friday evening, May 28th, on our Memorial Day Shabbat. On behalf of my husband, Steve, and myself, I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. And now, speaking of incredible volunteers, I'd like to welcome our past president and vice president of Facilities and Technology, Patty Beck, to join me on the bima. Patty has given years and years of her time, love, and energy to Temple Bethel. And she's going to join me for a special presentation, so I would also ask Rabbi Dan to come over and join Patty.
We're about the same size. Okay. It is good to be back on the bima. So, Dan, Rabbi, friend, I can't tell you how honored I am to be standing with you on the bima tonight to celebrate your 25th year in the rabbinate. It seems like yesterday when I sat on the search committee to hire an associate rabbi to work with our senior rabbi, Merle Singer. I remember it was April of 1996 because my father had passed away the week before. You had several other interviews before committing to take our offer and join the Temple Bethel clergy team. When you returned to Boca in June to begin your new career, I saw you, and the first thing you said to me was, "How are you doing since your father passed away?" I was amazed that you remembered my situation with all of the others you had met since your interview. You were so kind and sensitive on that day and have been every day since then. You had not been ordained when we first met, and I was not a member of the Board of Governors of Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. I stand before you tonight as a governor of the college, having served on the board of your beloved seminary for 14 years. Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion taught you, trained you, and ordained you to enter the world of Jewish clergy and inspire, teach, console, and laugh with each of your congregants. You are a shining star for HUC and exemplify the college's mission every single day. As president of Temple Bethel and your lay partner for almost 5 years, we worked together to make TBE the best congregation that it could be. We both love the College Institute and Temple Bethel because of what they do for Reform Judaism and the movement through education and experience. And I have in front of me what will be on a certificate that you will receive on May 27th. It says, Doctor of Divinity, Daniel E. Levin, who synthesizes the richness of Jewish wisdom with contemporary life as a path toward transformative Jewish experiences, who values sharing in the spiritual journeys of congregants, including moments of joy, celebration, anguish, pain, and loss, who, as a lifelong learner, treasures opportunities for study at the Shalom Hartman Institute, the Institute for Jewish Spirituality, and in other settings, who takes pride in building relationships with leaders of conservative and Orthodox congregations, fostering mutual respect and collaboration, and who supports Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion as a member of the President's Rabbinical Council and other leadership posts, as well as in fundraising endeavors and in building relationships with Florida Atlantic University. It is my greatest pleasure to confer the degree of Doctor of Divinity upon you tonight. Mazel Tov, Rabbi Dr. Daniel Levin.
Simin Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simin Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simin Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simin Tov, yeah, on you.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Patty. I can't think of anybody I would rather have to share in this special milestone with everyone. And now I invite you all to please rise.
Mishaberach Avoteinu B'Mitenu. May the God who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bring the gift of refuah shlema, of healing of mind, of body, and spirits, to those in our families and our communities who are suffering from illness and injury. Tonight we pray for the healing of Danielle Lacuna, Samuel Agranal, Jim Alexander, Benita Appel, Fred Belkin, Margie Berman Block, Mark Bossi, Kathleen Bowersox, Stephen Brackman, Monica Lowenthal-Butchnick, Andrea Colton, Lynn Edinger, Winona Epling, Arnold Ernay, Estelle Ernay, Eileen Feinerman, Rhonda Finley, Barry Friedman, Marty Fromowitz, Ina Goldberg, Jake Goldstein, Marilyn Graff, Allison Gross, Michael Halley, Marsha Hoffman, Keith Homer, Michelle Cahan, Steve Kaplan, Deanna Katz, Kristen Kay, Michael Kendhammer, Florence Koish, Stacy Klein, Nathan Corman, Evan Cole, Mickey Cutler, Leah Batrivka Golda, Sally Lindsay, Rita Loketz, Carol Lowenstein, Jack Mercer, Gary Nath, Victoria Nelson, Cheryl Ornstein, Annie Passman, William B. Plow, Helen Reagan-Strife, Jackie Robinson, Eileen Rosenbaum, Alan Rosenfeld, Ernie Rosenfeld, Sharon Rubin, Ruth Moriah Batshoshana Miriam, Bonnie Schaefer, Barry Shapiro, Shani Batsara, Len Sirowitz, Mickey Sirowitz, Gail Smith, Mark Sosin, Rabbi David Spitz, Lauren Spitz, Michael Sprinzen, Jeffrey Stoller, Janet Teich, Hannah Tolsis, Joan Weidenfeld, Marlene Weissman, Israel Yamuter, David Zensky, and those names which you add to our congregation as we go around the sanctuary this evening. We say, Baruch atah Adonai ve'hacholim. We praise you, Adonai, who helps bring healing to the sick.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We stay standing and turn to page 282 for Aleinu.
Aleinu neshapeach laton hakol, lateit gedola leotzeh breshit, shelo asanu kedoye haratzot, v'lo samanu kimishpachot hadama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gar aleinu kecho hamodam, v'anachnu korim u'mishta
thoughts now turn to those who have come and gone, those whose lives brought us joy and celebration, and whose memories live on through us as a blessing. If you are here in a period of mourning or observing a yahrzeit, we invite you to rise as the name of your loved one is recalled. Tonight at the yahrzeit, the anniversaries of their passings, we remember Francis Abramson, Alan Arno, Jeanette Batavia, Daniel Bernard, Mary Berliner, Jack Joseph Berngard, Isidore Billing, Carolyn Brodsky, Alfred Brodsky, Abraham Buchnick, Sylvia Borak, Harold Cohen, Adele Coleman, Charlotte Colton, Ruth S. Davidson, Phil Doktoroff, Freda Don, Sadie Z. Dubov, Harold Edwards, Richard Evans, Norman Feinstein, Dorothy Fellman, Mark Fellman, Lenora Fox, Tracy Frank, Louis Friedman, Stella Friedsam, Annie Rose Furman, Rosalie R. Furman, Samuel Ganslaw, Ada Rosengarland, Adele Geronimus, Joseph Gilbert, Debbie Glinkenhaus, Joseph H. Goldrich, Irving Goodman, Rose Gringer, Irving Gruber, Emmanuel Hammer, Marilyn Hark, Dorothy Heller, Bertha Strauss Helpert, Evelyn Hess, Mortimer D. Heitlinger, Mildred Hutt, Sam Kaplan, Sidney Cattell, Jean B. Klein, Jean Klein, Harold Kaufman, Margaret Krause, Ray Leach, Meyer Leschman, Irving Lev, Joby Levine, Al Levinson, Dora Leafman, Jeanette Mayer, Mena Malado, James Morse, Vincent Moses, Fritz Nussbaum, Sheila O'Neill, Leah Osiason, Eva Uziel, Ann Passeltinner, Cindy Radoff, Beatrice Reingold, Chester Rosenberg, Natalie Rubin, Minnie Savell, Jessica Renee Schmier, Herbert M. Schwartz, Annalie Schwartz, Michael Semenovsky, Zvi Spilner, Daniel Solomons, Joan Southgard, Marion Pigeon Spiro, Herbert Stein, Abraham Strauss, Bernice Strent, Louis Urban, Ann Valvola, Nat Wald, Marjorie Walzer, Anna Wasserman, David Weiner, Dr. Benjamin D. Wechtler, Marvin White, and Saul Zalea. And those who have passed in the last 30 days, we remember David Foreman, Lawrence Siegel, Zachary Sider, Joyce Passaroff, Robert Dale, Herman Becker, Bernice Shore, Bert Moldau, Carol Fox, Sally Robbins, Michael Singer, Audrey Weinberg, and Tina Goldstein. If there are others for whom you're saying Kaddish this evening, you want to rise and share their names, please do so as we go around the congregation. And those joining us virtually, we invite you to call the names of your loved ones to mind at this moment as well. As we rise now as a community, turn to page 294, and together we say the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach, Le'alam u'lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal, Shmei dekudsha b'richu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, huya asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. May the one who sends peace from the high heavens send peace to all of us, and send comfort to those who are bereaved, as together we say, Amen.
Special thanks to our wonderful musicians, Vindhya Kare on the keyboard and Jeff Renza on the drums. Special thanks to our friends in the booth. Thank you so much to Raymond and Ross and Jason and Kira. Let's join in the words of Hava Nishira.
Shir hallelujah, shir hallelujah, hava, havana shira, shir hallelujah, shir hallelujah, hava,
haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom.